Welcome to episode 78 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. Today is January 17, 2026, and at Old Trafford, at 12:30 p.m. local time, the 200th competitive Manchester Derby is scheduled to kick off. So today, to mark this milestone in English and global football, we'll do three things. We'll start at the origin, the first competitive meeting in 1891, when football and politics literally shared the same kickoff. We'll walk decade by decade through the power shifts, the moments where this fixture stops being a local match and becomes a derby in the modern sense. And we'll finish in the present, where the derby isn't just a Manchester argument, but a global event shaped by money, memory, and the people who swap sides. We start at the beginning, when neither club yet was a named Manchester brand. United begin in 1878 as Newton Heath LYR, the Lancashire and Yorkshire railway workers, at North Road, the industrial edge of the city. And City begin in 1880 as St. Mark's in West Gorton, then Ardwick in 1887, Church Roots, East Manchester, a club built as community structure as much as a sporting outlet. Although the two clubs meet in friendlies in the 1880s, the first competitive derby is played on October 3rd, 1891, an FA Cup qualifying tie at North Road, Newton Heath versus Ardwick. The match report is extraordinary for one detail that tells you exactly what football was in 1891. 6 political candidates were at the ground, canvassing, giving speeches, and one of them, Sir James Ferguson, is described as kicking off, a football match staged inside an election moment. This is the derby at birth. No tribal warfare, no merchandising, no global broadcasting, but a local sporting event, interwoven with civic life. Newton Heath win heavily that day, 5-1, even deflecting a penalty by Ardwick. A week later, the clubs meet again in the Football Alliance, the rival to the Football League. Newton Heath 3, Ardwick 1, and in December again, 2-2 at Hyde Road. In less than 3 months, already multiple matchups. And that's the real origin story, a mini-series of competitive matches. Ardwick become Manchester City in 1894. And Newton Heath become Manchester United in 1902, after a financial rescue and a rebrand. And then comes a twist that still feels like derby DNA. One club's crisis becomes the other club's foundation. In the first decade of the 1900s, City are hit by a financial scandal and forced into a fire sale of players. United buy key talent, including Billy Meredith and Sandy Turnbull, and those signings become part of United's first true rise to national status. Early Manchester football is full of these contradictions, rivalry, but also proximity, hostility, but also shared survival. Even the impossible move exists at the managerial level early. Ernest Mangnall manages United, then later manages City. Manchester football wasn't yet a hard border, it was a small ecosystem. So when does it become a derby in the modern sense, the kind with puck stance and rivalry and edge? The answer, really, is gradually, and after the Second World War. Before the war, plenty of Mancunians watched City one week and United the next. But after World War II, that becomes uncommon. Identities solidify. Following both becomes socially weird. And the physical symbol of that post-war transition is one of the great pieces of football history. In 1941, Old Trafford is bombed during the Manchester Blitz. United need a home, so a pragmatic solution is found. They play at Maine Road, City's home, until 1949, when the first derby in 13 years at Old Trafford immediately delivered. City secured a 1-0 halftime lead, but United turned it around in the second half and won 2-1. In the last minute of the match, United's left half and England international Henry Cockburn engages in, I kid you not, fisticuffs with City's right wing Billy Lineker right in front of referee Arthur Ellis, who sends both off, and then a few seconds later blows his whistle for full time. You just can't make it up. The derby keeps producing these kinds of moments that make rivalries permanent. Next week, it'll be 100 years since City's 6-1 win at Old Trafford in 1926. It still sits as a recurring reference point as the first truly mythic thrashing. In 1955, the margin is equaled by City's 5-0 win at Old Trafford, proof that shellacking travels across generations. Then the 1960s arrive, and suddenly both clubs matter nationally at the same time. United rebuilt European royalty under Matt Busby, who himself played for City in the 1920s and 30s, as you'll know from the OTD episode 75 just 3 days ago. And City have their own great team emerging into the Joe Mercer era. In 1968, City become champions on the last day of the season and just 2 points ahead of United, who 18 days later win their first European Cup. The derby begins to carry something heavier, not just local pride, but national consequence. And the decade culminates at Old Trafford in December 1970 with George Best's tackle on City's Glenn Pardo, whose leg is badly fractured. That injury created an edgy dimension for the derby, but on April 27, 1974, comes the match at Old Trafford that forever makes sure the Manchester Derby is legendary. United must win to keep the hopes of avoiding relegation alive. City sit mid-table, season is over, and they now have Denis Law back after a successful decade with United. You can probably already see where I'm going with this. It's goalless until the 82nd minute, when Denis Law scores with his backheel and relegates United to Division 2. Law doesn't celebrate. He's substituted and never plays for City again. Then the crowd invades the pitch and the match is abandoned. And from that moment on, this fixture is never again just another match. Now to the Premier League era. United's dominance in the 1990s turns many derbies into hierarchy checks, and then City return the pain later with their own rewrites. November 10, 1994. United 5, City 0. A demolition that lives inside the Ferguson era as a statement. This is what power looks like. From 1989 to 2002, United is undefeated in 16 consecutive derbies, which remains the record. And the derby has turned personal in a way that echoes all the way to today's match. April 2001, Old Trafford, 1-1. United are champions. City are fighting relegation. And Roy Keane launches into Elf Inge Haaland, yes, Erling's dad, with a tackle that earns a red card, the culmination of a feud that started years earlier. Keane later admits it was deliberate. He's fined heavily and banned. That's a derby moving from rivalry into score settling. And a year later, another moment that tells you what crossing the city means. 2002, Peter Schmeichel, a United treble legend, is now with City. In the tunnel, Gary Neville refuses the handshake. No speech, no drama. Just a cold shoulder that says, some moves change how you're received forever. Then the derby becomes a symbol of modern football itself. In 2009, Carlos Tevez switches from United to City after the end of his contract. A billboard goes up, saying, "Welcome to Manchester." Fergie wouldn't have anything of it. Noisy neighbours, he called them. And then the match that feels like the derby's television coronation. September 2009, United 4, City 3. 3 times United score, 3 times City equalize. Then, deep in stoppage time, Michael Owen scores the winner. Iconic. And Old Trafford doesn't celebrate, it detonates. And then 2 years later, the reverse detonation, of course. October 2011, City 6, United 1, at Old Trafford. Same scoreline as 1926, different meaning. United collapses at the finish, conceding 3 goals in the 89th minute and in the first and third minute of overtime. This isn't a freak, it's a power shift. And then we even served this morsel for today's match. United's goal in that 1-6 demolition was scored by Darren Fletcher, who until Tuesday this week was caretaker manager until Michael Carrick was appointed manager. Carrick, by the way, has also scored for United in a Manchester derby. Well, twice actually. Then in April 2012, Vincent Kompany's header in a 1-0 win, City win, turns the derby into an actual title lever. The match helps tilting the league's balance and enables the wildest photo finish between the two clubs 2 weeks later and deep in injury time, when Sergio Aguero's winner against QPR clinches the title for City. And the derby becomes what it still is now, a referendum of which club is shaping the era. Guardiola versus Mourinho. Guardiola versus United's churn. A 3-2 United comeback from 2-0 down at the Etihad in April 2018 that delays City's title party. It stings for sure, but only delays the title by a week or so. And we have City's 6-3 demonstration in October 2022, up 4-0 at halftime. The 9 goals make up for the highest scoring result in the 199 competitive derbies so far. And then finally, in 2023, the first derby in an FA Cup final proved that the fixture has climbed all the way from municipal pastime to national climax, and was then repeated immediately the year after in 2024, each side claiming a 2-1 win in those 2 finals. If anything is missing still, it's a derby in a European Cup tournament. It'll come, I'm sure of it, and I can't wait. So we arrive at today, January 17, 2026, and derby number 200. And to summarize what we are celebrating, a rivalry that started with railwaymen and churchmen, and a match that opens with political candidates kicking off. A rivalry that didn't truly harden until after World War II, when fans stopped sharing allegiances and started treating red or blue colors as dividers. A rivalry that has become a modern football barometer, money, status, ideology, identity, pressed into 90 minutes. The cleanest way to understand the Manchester Derby is this. It isn't one long continuous rivalry. It's a sequence of rivalries, each era writing its own rules. All the while, the city keeps producing new reasons to care. Today's pre-kickoff ledger sits at 199 competitive derbies. United has 81 wins, City has 62, and 56 matches have ended in a draw. As for goals, it's almost even. United has scored 283, City 281. On this day, today, will Joy Derby number 200, and Manchester, once again, meets itself. That's all for episode 78 of OTD, Derby number 200, Newton Heath, Ardwick, and the Manchester rivalry that grew up with football. If you got a story or any trivia from a Manchester Derby, then email me at otd@17lawsguy.com. And ideas for OTD episodes are always welcome. Before you trek to Old Trafford, a pub, or a TV to watch the match live, I'd be grateful if you would give this podcast 5 stars, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and how about clicking the share icon and send this to people you know. The higher this show climbs the charts, the more the history of the beautiful game gets spread. Tomorrow, in episode 79, we go to 1961 and to the day the FA lifted the maximum wage limit and global football's economy changed forever. See you then, and enjoy today's derby.